UFC 281 saw a new middleweight champion crowned in the form of Brazil's Alex Pereira. However, one of Poaton's former opponents has revealed his surprise at Alex besting Izzy, and the epic event also saw the birth of a meme and the end of dreams. Today, we are discussing Sean Strickland's surprise that Pereira was able to dethrone Adesanya, and some other dream-ending fights, as well as a pretty great meme. Stay with us. First up, we're discussing a pretty sticky situation for the ex-champ. Israel Adesanya's week has gone from bad to worse. After being starched by longtime tormentor Alex Pereira to losing his middleweight title over the weekend, the Nigerian Kiwi was then arrested as he tried to leave the country. His rough few days culminated in his arrest on Tuesday, as he was trying to fly back to New Zealand. As he went through security at the airport, Adesanya was flagged for having a pair of metal knuckle dusters in his possession. Not that he needs them, being one of the finest strikers the UFC has ever seen. Of course, knuckle dusters are seen as weapons and are illegal in the state of New York, but Israel was released shortly after. As it turned out, it was all a bit of misunderstanding. Apparently, Stylebender had been given the metal knuckles as a present by a fan, which he put into his luggage and simply forgot about. Apparently, Izzy then disposed of the item and fully cooperated with the police before being sent on his way. The incident caps off a wretched weekend for Adesanya, who must go away and try to put together a plan to beat Pereira, who has now beaten him 3 times. The pair met in Glory Kickboxing before they moved to the UFC, with the Brazilian getting the better of Izzy on both occasions, knocking him out cold in their last meeting back in 2017. What do you make of Izzy's arrest? Next up, Robert Whittaker has been giving his thoughts on Pereira's win. As you will know, the Reaper was the last middleweight champion before Israel Adesanya, and he also fought him earlier this year in a rematch. Of course, he was unsuccessful, as Izzy appears to have Rob's number, just like Pereira has Adesanya's. Whittaker is widely regarded as a top of the food chain middleweight, and last weekend's title fight has certainly piqued his interest. Rob believes that he will be able to utilize his wrestling against Pereira a lot more than he could against Adesanya, giving himself a good chance of regaining the middleweight title he lost back in 2019. Whittaker, who battered Marvin Vettori over 3 rounds in France back in September, revealed that he thinks Pereira is a better matchup for him than Izzy is, due to the Brazilian stance and his aggressiveness in coming forward. Rob was speaking at the UFC 284 presser, where he will be taking on Paulo Costa, saying, "The way he likes to fight, I feel, gives me a better edge. But in saying that, did you see the size of the fella? The dude's a giant. He's an absolute giant, because I've been face to face with Israel, and it's surprising to see." Describing Izzy as a big guy in his own right, Rob again doubled down on Alex's size, but refused to admit defeat without at least going up against him first, saying, "I think I can take him." Who do you guys have if Whittaker takes on Alex? Michael Bisping has also weighed in on the stoppage next. Stay tuned. Michael Bisping is well placed to give his thoughts on middleweight title fight stoppages, given the fact he stopped Luke Rockhold from claiming the crown back in 2016. Stylebender was easily up on points heading into the final round, but as Pereira laid into the defending champion up against the fence, the referee quickly saved him from further punishment in what some have suggested was an early stoppage. Not Bisping, however. The Count believes that the fight wasn't stopped early, but did admit that there is a discussion to have. Bisping, who retired after losing to Kelvin Gastelum just 3 weeks after being dethroned by GSP, went on to claim that if he was Izzy, he would be pretty annoyed, but admitted that that's only the perspective of a former champion. Of course, it is the job of the ref to make a judgment call, and in this case, the call was right. Bisping went on to say, "If I want to have my belt taken off me, I want to be choked unconscious and left on the floor in Madison Square Garden. That's exactly what GSP did to me," which is probably fair enough. And Mike did go on to concede that it certainly wasn't a bad stoppage. What did you guys think of the stoppage? So what has Strickland been saying? Let's see. Well, Well, Sean Strickland is no stranger to airing his opinions, and he was at it again in the wake of UFC 281 last weekend. As we all know by now, Alex Pereira knocked Israel Adesanya out in the 5th and final round to inflict yet more torment on the Kiwi striker. Pereira shocked casuals all over the world as he took Adesanya's middleweight crown away from him. Still, those who had bothered to do the least bit of research would have known that Pereira was Izzy's boogeyman and wasn't really an underdog at all. However, Sean Strickland, who was KO'd by Alex last time out as he egregiously walked straight at the Brazilian with his hands down, still seemed surprised at how the fight played out. Strickland explained that although Alex has the capability of knocking anyone out, he was not expecting that. He went on, "I was a little surprised. I thought Izzy was gonna be twinkle toes and dance around and outpoint him. But hats off to you, Alex. You big ass scary Brazilian. You go out and do it." In a vile, foul-mouthed rant, Strickland was criticized in his last fight for not wrestling Pereira, which is, of course, one of his strengths. But instead, he decided to stand and bang with one of the most dangerous strikers on the planet, which, in hindsight, was a terrible idea. What do you make of Strickland's words? Strickland has also given Izzy a piece of belated advice. Stick around. Of course, as the last man to fight Pereira before Izzy this past weekend, Sean Strickland would have been in a good position to give Izzy a few tips. However, he decided to wait until after the fight to impart his wisdom to the former champ, admitting that he himself should have wrestled when up against Pereira. He suggested that that was the same route Izzy should have taken. He did wrestle Pereira in parts, with some success, but given the fact he is much more comfortable striking, he eventually reverted to type. Strickland revealed that Izzy is now getting the same speech from people that he himself received after not wrestling Pereira. But he also added that he didn't wrestle the Brazilian as he simply wanted to fight him. That's why. Strickland, who is scheduled to fight Jared Cannonier this December, also discussed how when he was KO'd by Pereira, he was still coherent, before going on to confirm that the Adesanya finish was a good one. That's despite a couple of people around the sport suggesting it could have been slightly premature. He also derided the suggestion that Izzy will get an instant rematch, claiming that the UFC should give the next guy in line a shot. However, most have claimed that what Adesanya has done in the division almost guarantees him an instant rematch, but that didn't stop Strickland from claiming that all the UFC care about is money, a claim you're not going to hear us disagree with. So what about this new meme? Let's discuss it. UFC 281 saw the birth of a new meme and the death of a few dreams. The meme in question saw a caricature of what could only have been Dana White holding up a newspaper with Alex Pereira splashed across the front. Also on the front page is an obituary section, making reference to the fact that quite a few dreams were crushed on Saturday night at the Garden. We saw fan favorite Molly McCann's hype train seriously derailed as she was put in against Erin Blanchfield, who simply looked levels above the Liverpool fighter. Blanchfield, a native New Yorker, got the job done in the very first round as she forced Molly to tap via Kimura, bringing to an end one of the most popular 3-fight win streaks in promotion history, which featured not one, but 2 spinning elbow KOs. Sadly, Frankie Edgar was also flatlined in what was his final fight in the UFC. He was up against Chris Gutierrez, but at 40 years old, he needed to be in there with someone much less dangerous than Gutierrez. The card also saw us say goodbye to Dominic Reyes' chin as he was knocked out via a Ryan Spann jab. What did you guys make of the rest of the card? Let us know below. As always, thanks for dropping by today, and remember to tune in again next time for some more fun reveals. And why not do us a big favor by liking and sharing today's video with any MMA heads you know of. Bye guys.